Hey, it's Tim. Today I'm baking crescent rolls. This has only 7 ingredients, and as usual, I'm baking these from the book Bread Illustrated by America's Test Kitchen. Start with 12.5 ounces of all-purpose flour, add a teaspoon of yeast and a teaspoon of salt into the bowl of a stand mixer. Whisk that together and set it aside. And then in a jar, mix 4 ounces of half and half, 7 tablespoons of butter, a half a cup of sugar, and a large egg, plus 1 egg yolk. And then mix that to combine it and keep mixing until the sugar has been dissolved. It should take about 30 seconds or so. So this has got half and half, which has got a lot of fat in it, 2 egg yolks, a lot of fat, 7 tablespoons of butter, a lot of fat. This is going to be a rich dough, which you'd expect from crescent rolls. So now with the stand mixer on the lowest speed, add the liquid ingredients and mix for 2 minutes, stopping the mixer after 30 seconds to scrape the bowl down and get everything off the bottom so that it mixes well and all the flour will end up getting saturated with the liquid mix. It takes about 2 minutes. And when it's done, it's going to look like this, which everybody calls a shaggy dough, as opposed to what it'll look like after it's been kneaded. So this is all kind of rough and scraggly and falls off the dough hook like that. So now turn the mixer up to the second speed and knead it for 8 minutes. And after 8 minutes, it's going to look like this. This will be a much more cohesive, stronger dough. And by stronger, I mean as you try to manipulate it, like I'm doing there with the scraper, it fights back, which is what you want, because that shows that it's developed the gluten so that when the yeast does its thing and produces carbon dioxide and then the moisture inside expands under heat, the dough will rise and create something that's nice and light and fluffy. So at this point, we're just going to form it into a ball. It'll have a nice little surface on the top that's kind of smooth, and we'll set this aside to rest for about 90 minutes. And then on a floured surface, we're going to roll this into a 12-inch circle. And just lightly flouring. So it makes this different from the other breads that I've baked. And you can see, I mean, the basic steps are the same, right? Take the dry ingredients, whisk those together, add the liquid ingredients that have been mixed together, knead it until it forms a nice dough. It's because of all the fat and the relatively large amount of sugar. These are going to be sweet and they're going to be tender, quite tasty really. Should be really nice. Beats the heck out of that stuff that comes in the refrigerator can. So now we're going to cut this into 12 easy pieces. And in the book they show doing it with a knife, but I've got this silicone pizza wheel that was cheap. It's like $8 and it works great. So start at the thick end or the wide end and roll up. And you want to have it end up so that the tail of the narrow end is kind of on the bottom of the thing. And that way when it bakes, it'll stay together. So all 12 of these get rolled up like this, and then after they're done rolling up, we're going to let them rise, and it should take about another hour and a half. So most bread is at its essence liquid, right? Flour, liquid, water. So flour, water, salt, yeast. And then there are things that get added to it and the way that it's shaped that make it into different resulting breads. So a brioche is kind of like this. It's got a lot of butter and some eggs and stuff in it. There's a way to make it so that it's not quite the same as this. But you see what I'm saying. The bread is bread. And the things that you can do with it depend on what you add and don't add to the dough and the way that you shape it and so on. So this is the remaining 1 egg white from where I separated that egg, and I just mixed a little bit of olive oil in it because I didn't leave any of the yolk in it, so I wanted to get some fat in it, and I put a pinch of salt in it, and we're going to just put that over all of the risen croissants. And that'll go into a 350 degree oven. They're going to bake for about 20 to 25 minutes, and they'll look like this. I rotated the pan once while they were in there. So this was really easy. Once you get the hang of mixing dough and handling it, it becomes a simple thing. There was all 12. They have to cool for about 15 minutes, which they just did through the magic of video. And surprisingly, given that this was all mixed in the mixer and there was no lamination, there's an actual croissant recipe coming up, which is late in the book, that has you layer the flour, layer the dough with the butter to make a proper croissant. But these, it was simple because the liquid ingredients, including the melted butter, just went in the mixer and still turned out pretty flaky, and you can see nice and tender. I think they turned out great. So these were crescent rolls. Thanks for watching.